Welcome back to the latest Manchester United news. There's a lot to talk about, especially on the striker position. Is Viktor Gyokeres the next in line to join Manchester United? So what's the latest updates on that? Then Mbeumo negotiations. So Man United knows that Mbeumo is possibly heading there, but why is it taking so long, and what are the reasons why? And then goalkeeper targets. So is Andre Onana going to stay? What are the options which Man United have to replace him? And then finally, we'll end with some miscellaneous news. So let's start with Viktor Gyokeres. So there's actually not been much news on Viktor Gyokeres because nobody seems to be linked to him. There have been vague mentions of that some clubs in Europe are inquiring about him, and there was recently even an article that Arsenal had sent in a proposal, but nothing concrete. But this was what Ben Jacobs said, that there's an expectation that Viktor Gyokeres is waiting for Old Trafford. A part of this is down to Ruben Amorim, who he knows very well, and another aspect is just a belief in the ability of a football club like Manchester United. I mean, this is, I, I mean, I think everybody felt that in the back of their head that this is a very good possibility, because not only did he play for Ruben Amorim, but we need a striker, and if he looks at the other options out there, I mean, you do have established clubs playing in the Champions League like Arsenal and Liverpool if they get rid of Darwin Núñez, but all the other clubs who are looking for him are up and comer clubs. So I know Manchester United finished 15th and don't have European football, but I never felt that, at least in the eyes of Viktor Gyokeres, it would hurt them as much as going to another club which just got into Champions League, and there's no guarantee that they would ever get Champions League again. So when given those two choices, I think it's quite clear what any player in their shoes would do. So this is what Ben Jacobs had to say. And by the way, this is from the interview which he gave to United Stand. So Viktor Gyokeres is open to MUFC even without Champions League football. No approach to Sporting yet, and several other European and Saudi suitors. But Ruben Amorim is still in touch with the player. Sporting will sell for around 70 million euros. Sporting want around 60 million pounds or 70 million euros for Gyokeres. This is a 25 million pound reduction from his 85 million pound release clause. Gyokeres has a verbal pact in place with Sporting, allowing him to leave for less after committing to staying for the 24-25 campaign, in which he scored 54 goals in just 52 games and won the Primera Liga title. And so that's good that not only does he have relations with the manager, but his old team has agreed to sell him at a discount. I think this is the best option. Even though when you watch him on tape, he looks like a more experienced Hoyland, but his touches are a little off, which kind of worries you. Like, you don't see him as silky with the ball or running at defenders, but in the box, within the 18-yard box, he is lethal. I mean, just looking at his highlights, you can see that his finishing is at the top, and that's what we need. So do we need him to move forward with the ball from the halfway line? No, that's why we got our 10s for. That's why we have one wing back, and we're going to get either Ahmad on the other side or possibly Diogo Dalot. So I don't see that as being such a big deal breaker. So I'm glad that we are actually now considering him, and I'm glad that he's waiting. He's actually waiting, because he could have pushed his agent to get in contact with clubs and get his name out there. But I think Ruben has been speaking to a lot of people. Like how I mentioned in previous videos, he's speaking to the management about the state of the club, but he's also speaking with his current players about who he wants, who he doesn't want, and also with potential players on how they would fit into this project. So I'm glad that is going fine. I think I think Mbeumo will be probably be signed first before him. I think they've told him, hey, we really like you, but you just need to wait, and that makes sense because I think the Athletic recently put out an article about the PSR and how much each team has to spend, and Man United came up with about a 140 million pound limit, so they have to get some sales through, and that might prove to be the tough part. But if you look at their wage structure, I mean the wages, they're not even, there's so many clubs above them as well. So I think they're getting this all under control, hopefully sooner rather than later. But there are still some players with high wages on their books, so that's what they have to get them out before they can proceed with this deal. So we'll discuss those outgoings hopefully. But yeah, just speak to Victor and tell him how much he's needed, and that they are building around him, and that he's the cherry on the top, and that he just has to wait for a little time. The second big topic was the Mbeumo news. So obviously it was mentioned, I think it came out on the 2nd of June that Manchester United are very interested in Mbeumo, and Mbeumo is only wants Manchester United. So when those two things align, then it's up to the selling club, which is Brentford, to get the deal across, because he's already on his last year of his contract. So they want to sell him, and they probably want to get good money. But this is where I just don't like where this deal is heading. So I'll give you the specifics of what happened yesterday, where Manchester United put a proposal down, an opening bid, and it was rejected. And I can see why it was rejected, but just listen to the details. So the first priority is the obvious one, and that is to get a deal for Mbeumo over the line. United have made an opening bid of £45 million plus £10 million in add-ons, and while that falls short of the B's asking price, talks are continuing. Manchester United presented a first proposal as reported by The Athletic in the recent hours, and Brentford are not accepting this money. So this was from Manchester Evening News. First of all, a player on the last year of his contract who only wants to go to Manchester United should be much more easier to get it over the line, especially in terms of fees. I just don't get, and this is one of the big problems about Manchester United. It's recruitment and also bad negotiations over fees and wages. Wages, I know there's been some rumors about Mbeumo is being paid so much that as a result, he's choosing Manchester United just for the money, and otherwise he would have gone to some of the other clubs like Newcastle or Everton. But I think all that is nonsense. Yes, he's going to be paid much more than what he was getting paid at Brentford, but I don't think it would be anywhere close to the £250,000 which were per week, which was being mentioned. So I think that's just sour grapes on their end. But this is where I don't like it. So listen to this part. Brentford is starting from £70 million, and then they are in conversations with Manchester United and those close to Brian Mbeumo. They clearly said that they would accept anything similar to what Manchester United paid for Matthias Cunha. So let's see, between 60 to 65 million pounds. So with a small discount compared to the 70 million pounds initial pricing for this deal. So basically, Brentford had a price which was about 50 million pounds for Brian Mbeumo, but as soon as Manchester United became the potential buyer, I think we can get some more money. Didn't they buy Matthias Cunha for 62.5 million pounds, which was his release clause? So why not just make Manchester United pay much more for this? And this is where you have to, I know it might not be a big deal in the end, but it is, you're setting a precedent, and it's a bad precedent. You should go up to Brentford and say he has 1 year in his contract. He wants to come to Manchester United. You can't just name any price and expect us to pay. And I hope, I know a lot of people won't like this, but I hope they drag this a little bit, at least, just so that they they don't just give in and just accept this, because this is where part of the problem is. Yes, it might be 5 or 10 million pounds, but you have to make it known, especially to the other clubs who you're going to be selling or buying from in the future, that this is that you're not a pushover and that this cannot keep happening. I mean, how can you just set a price for Brian Mbeumo based on how much Manchester United paid Wolverhampton Wanderers for Matthias Cunha? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, you you have to value him based on his based on how good he is. So you just can't make up any price and just compare. And I think Matthias Cunha and Brian Mbeumo are completely different players. So yes, they might be as effective as each other, but I mean, especially with the terms of his contract, Cunha had just signed an extension, so he was under a long contract, and Brian Mbeumo is in the last year of his contract. So there's clearly a big difference between both their contract situations. And this was another one. So Brentford would want add-ons to be more player-specific, as opposed to team-based add-ons like Champions League qualifications, etc. The selling club tends to want this as they know the player and have more confidence in them. This was Ben Jacobs again. So, I mean, I can understand this a bit, because if you say that the add-ons are if Manchester United reaches the Champions League and then they get paid, as a selling club who has been watching Manchester United and seen them, actually Manchester United finished below Brentford, so they might be thinking, hey, who knows when Manchester United might next qualify for the Champions League, so we can't rely on that to get our add-ons, so let's just make it a player-specific add-ons, and that he reaches certain goals or assists, and that would trigger them. I can understand. I don't give a damn about this, but I wish it was team specific, because that means you get anyway extra money coming in. So from a Manchester United perspective, that would be better. But I can see Brentford wanting this done. But I'm just sick about the price. I know it should not be a deal breaker, but this is just. I'm looking at the future and what other contracts can possibly be, and so we have to set a precedent, just like how Chelsea were adamant about their wage structure when negotiating with Sancho. They told him clearly that, hey, this is our structure, this is what we can afford to pay you, there's no way we can give you what Manchester United was giving you, so the ball is in your court. And obviously Sancho decided he wouldn't do that. So but this is what I would hope for. I think this won't take long. They'll probably decide this in the next few days, definitely before the end of the first edition of the transfer window. So definitely before the 10th of June, we should have an idea about when is he joining and what next. Now the third topic is the goalkeeper situation. So this is very interesting. So obviously, I'm not a big fan of Andre Onana. I think he's good. He's good with his feet, but I would rather he be good with his hands first, and then being good with his feet is an addition to that. But he just makes a lot of mistakes, and I think he would be better suited at somewhere else and not in Manchester United. Even though I think one of the biggest problem for Manchester United this past season was scoring goals rather than letting in goals. So I can see that maybe if the funds are limited and some of the outgoings do not go through, they might hold on to Andre Onana and see what can happen. But we already know that Altay Bayanda is going to leave, so because he wants playing time before the World Cup next summer. So you need to replace him. So might as well get a good keeper one who's not established but a good keeper who's willing to sit back and learn. Maybe even promise him Carabao Cup matches for sure. And if Andre Onana creates a fuss about that, then tell him to sit his ass on the bench. So I think that's the one way you can you can sell that to a potential keeper to come here, because I think we were linked to that keeper Suzuki who went to Parma in Italy. I mean, now he's balling out, and there were some rumors that, hey, we might go back and get him when we could have got him for cheap. But that time, we nearly had that over the line, but Suzuki didn't want to come because he wanted to be promised playing time. And I think we got Andre Onana that same window, so he left. But anyway, I don't think he's going to come back. So this is what Ben Jacobs had to say about potential replacements. So there is a realistic chance Andre Onana goes, which would open the door for Emiliano Martinez. However, he's not been told that he's for sale. The original strategy was always bringing in a young second choice keeper, but it could change. So Aston Villa is in PSR trouble, so they'll probably want to offload some players. Martinez has kind of hinted that he wants to leave. He was clapping and getting emotional in his last games for Aston Villa, so there's a chance that they want to sell him. But Manchester United should not go for this, because first of all, he wants playing time, and he also wants to stay in Europe. So I think he can get a better club, at least better suited club for himself than Manchester United, because even if Andre Onana goes, I don't want Emi Martinez to come to Manchester United and be the first choice keeper. There's no way we can do that, because I think he's good for penalty shootouts, but he still makes a lot of mistakes during games. So I don't think he's an elite keeper. He's an okay keeper who psychs out opposing players in penalty shootouts. And he does make some good saves. I'm not taking anything away from him, but we are not desperate. Especially, this is what Ben Jacobs mentioned about his potential price. Aston Villa would realistically want 25 to 30 million pounds for Emi Martinez, despite their initial valuation being closer to 40 million pounds. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous money. There's no way Manchester United should spend 25 to 30 million pounds for a keeper who's not even that good, and who Aston Villa is trying to get. I mean, maybe he might be one of the players they're trying to get rid of, but they have to get rid of some players. So if you're that desperate to get him, wait till the window ends, and then Aston Villa might have to get rid of him, and then you might get him at a cut rate. But I don't think he'll go, because they need a keeper then. But so if you sell him for a low price, and then you have to spend more to get a good keeper, I don't think so. And plus, I forget where they are. So they're not in the Champions League. Are they in Europa or in the Conference League? Anyway, they need a keeper, so they probably not. This was one interesting goalkeeper option which I heard, and it was linked to Arsenal. So Arsenal are informed on a £5 million release clause for Kepa as option to be David Raya's backup. Initial talks took place to be informed on deal conditions, as Sky UK reports. Why don't we go for Kepa? £5 million as a backup, and he played pretty well. Which club was it? Nottingham Forest, I think. He played not Nottingham Forest. Bournemouth. So, I mean, £5 million for Kepa as a backup. Hey, I would take that. And if he shows himself to be well, then you just switch it around, and Andre Onana goes to the bench, and then Andre Onana will probably want to leave. And that's the thing. Andre Onana, he's not been happy about the wage cuts he's been having to take, because Manchester United cannot seem to qualify for the Champions League. So he might decide to leave. But this is a good option. I mean, if this is out there, I think Ruben Amorim should really go and try to speak to Kepa and sell him on the project and his potential role in that. So, I mean, this is a very good option, better than spending 25 to 30 million for Emi Martinez. But let's see. And finally, there have been a whole bunch of miscellaneous news out there. So let's see. So first one was Franco Mastentuono, the Argentinian wonder kid. It looks like he's heading to Real Madrid. That's good. I don't want Man United to spend 35 to 40 million pounds on him. I mean, he might be good. He might be very good, but right now we are not in the position. The same thing what I said about Giovanni Quenda, the right back from Sporting Lisbon. There's no way you should be spending that amount of money, especially when it's like 75% of the price of an established player from the Premier League. So he might turn out to be very good, but anyway, that kid, his mind was set for Real Madrid, and Real Madrid wants him. They are negotiating. Good luck. This one was, so there's some Italian, okay, so this one is on Rasmus Højlund. Some Italian journalists have been saying that Inter Milan are interested in Rasmus Højlund, but they're still deciding. Yeah, I don't know whether we should sell him or we should loan him and then watch him do well and then possibly get him back. But I would lean towards loaning him, especially if you don't get another striker. Especially if you get Viktor Gyokeres and then you don't get another striker, then just hold on to him. Because why sell him yet? Just loan him. He's on pretty low wages, so they should be able to cover it, and you should be able to get a loan fee for him. So it's a net positive. And worst case scenario, mid season, if you're desperate, you can call him back for the rest of the season. So I would send him out on loan. But let's see. Another thing I noticed was, so Manchester United have been putting out Bruno videos and former Portuguese player videos, and I think they've been listening to the noise that so although some fans are happy that Bruno is staying, others are quite upset that, hey, we missed out on a lot of money and all that. But they put out a video which says they're calling him Magnifico and basically interviewing all the other players and asking them about Bruno's role on the team, and obviously they have a lot of high praises for him. I knew this was going to come out because the PR thing could get bad, because people would be wondering, like, why aren't you selling him, especially when you have your part owner coming out and saying that they don't have money. So I think that's a good thing, kind of, but I don't think that'll change a lot of people's minds. It only depends on next year when Manchester United actually starts playing games again, and how Bruno might fit on the team. Because I don't think you're going to drop him or maybe bring him off the bench. So I think he is definitely going to play one of the pivot positions on the team. So then there's also some news about Anthony. So this is from Dario Sevilla, possibly a Spanish journalist. Anthony's agents are traveling to Seville this week to try and secure another deal with Real Betis. There will also be a meeting between Real Betis and Manchester United with the same objective. All parties want to make progress on a deal. So this is good, yeah, but this could also be like hopium. Just maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't happen. But one thing which is positive and which did happen is that so there was the Real Betis player Cardoso, I believe is a midfielder, I'm not sure, has agreed for a move to Atletico for 30 million euros, and so that's a lot of incoming cash for Real Betis. So now they might have more funds to possibly make a permanent deal for Anthony. I think the longer they wait on the Anthony deal, the more other teams will start snooping around and asking, hey, is Anthony for sale? And maybe try to get into his ear. and try to sell them on their project. So I think Real Betis, once they finalize that transaction, they'll probably come in and try to get a deal done, and that's good because just get that done, because he's not performing at Manchester United. He's claiming that he's not happy at Manchester United, and we have a club who wants him. So let's somehow get this done. If I think you can, this is one of the deals where you can actually have add-ons as thing, because I think he's actually balling out there. So he might be able to score a certain number of goals. So, and I think just get it done. This is one you can get it done, and try to get it done. So there was a lot of noise. This next topic is about Manuel Ugarte. So there was a lot of noise over the past few weeks, especially towards the end of the season, where Ugarte was not even a starter, but he was being brought off the bench, and sometimes not even being brought on. So a lot of people have been complaining, saying he doesn't fit in this team and possibly needs to be replaced. And then PSG sold us a dud. But I'm surprised that Ben Jacobs mentioned this. I don't know if he was prompted to, or he was asked a question about Manuel Ugarte, but if he brought this up on his own, that I think he's kind of been given that information that, hey, get this out there and mention it, that we like this player and we're happy that he's here. I think Ruben has a plan for him. I think Ruben also probably wants him to get much better. So let's see what happens. So this is what Ben Jacobs had to say. There's a lot of support internally at Man United for Manuel Ugarte. They believe he's a good fit for the midfield too. So if he's a good fit for the midfield too, and he's possibly going to start, so that means it's him and Bruno in the midfield too. So let's see. This is another one on Antony. So Bayer Leverkusen are monitoring Antony. He's on their list, but at this stage, it's nothing more than that. So that's good. This is from Pleti Goal. That's good. It is get this news out there in the ether, so it reaches the ears of Real Betis, and they realize that, hey, his old manager, Erik ten Hag, who's now at Bayer Leverkusen, is snooping around and wants to possibly learn more about the deal. So I think they'll try to get this. I think Real Betis will try to get this deal done and hopefully get him over the line, probably before their preseason starts. And finally, on Kobbie Mainoo. So there's obviously been a lot of talk about Kobbie's role, especially his role in this team under Ruben Amorim, and how does he fit, but and whether they might sell him. And even recently, there was an interview with Gary Neville about which players should come and go, and this was one player. He said, no, we cannot let him go under any circumstance. And I kind of agree, because I think he's really good. I know Man United will get lowballed, and if they were forced to sell him, they would sell him for really cheap. I think he's world class, and he just needs more time. And luckily, he's a very good professional. There's not a lot of noise coming out from him that, hey, I'm not playing, or I should be playing, or whatnot. So, and he's young. Plus, so get his contract done, which is ending soon, and if he has to come off the bench, he has to come off the bench. If he's a substitute, he is a substitute. If he doesn't play in some games, he doesn't play in some games. But he's still quite young, and he should earn his role like every other player by performing well on the pitch whenever he gets a chance. So this is what Ben Jacobs had said. While there is appreciation from Chelsea, Man United don't want to sell Kobbie Mainoo. Hopefully that's true, and hopefully that he does stay and gets better. So that's it. Thank you for your support. Feel free to put a comment on what you think about this video and what you would like to hear about more. And also, please like and subscribe, so that helps other people find this video. Thank you so much.